So, folks, we gotta talk about the SAVE Act, which is a piece of legislation that was originally designed to try and help Donald Trump steal the election, require voter IDs, essentially do the work of a more convoluted poll tax with extra steps. That's basically what the SAVE Act was supposed to do. And, well, folks, we
With
gotta
a
talk
neat
about
little
what's
vial
new.
of estrogen you can shoot laser from your eyes.
It's true. Estrogen lets you shoot lasers. You heard it here first, folks. That is 100% accurate information. Pzoom, pzoom, pzoom. That's my laser sound. I don't know if my editor can add like laser effects, but that'd be fun to throw in there. Anyway, the SAVE Act is basically a bunch of legalized election interference designed to allow Donald Trump to try and exert some level of control over the midterm and general elections that are on the horizon here in 2026 later this year and in 2028. And Donald Trump has apparently stepped in to demand additional priorities for the SAVE Act. So let's take a look at what Caroline Levitt had to say about that when asked by the press.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Caroline. The president had a July 4th deadline for the One Big Beautiful Bill. Does he see a deadline for the Save America Act, as I know that's a priority of his to get passed?
As soon as possible, I know the president would say. This is a huge priority for the president. It remains one. I know he has added on some priorities to the Save America Act in recent days, namely no transgender transition surgeries for minors. We are not going to tolerate the mutilation of young children in this country. No men in women's sports. And the president putting all of these priorities together, it speaks to just how common sense they are. These are all common sense priorities of this president that are backed by the vast majority of Americans, and he wants Republicans to act on them as quickly as possible.
So, yeah, what was purely a piece of legislation designed to basically act as a hurdle for people potentially wanting to vote is now being saddled with a bunch of scary buzzwords about trans people. Like, oh, we're gonna do stuff about trans people. The issue here is legislatively, in my humble opinion, this effectively kills the bill. You know, not entirely out of the question that it would get passed, but it was already a fight to try and get this passed when it was already going through the system in the House and the Senate. And now Donald Trump is demanding changes that get added to it and that will again have to get through the House and the Senate. And like, this is effectively just dead in the water as far as I can tell. But what this is doing is it is acting as a rhetorical cudgel, a way to, again, as I've been saying a lot recently when it comes to trans issues from this administration and from the GOP generally on the state level, they are very happy to use this essentially as busy work for themselves to look like they're doing something other than stealing from their constituents to give to their biggest Epstein class donors, you know, the biggest, richest people that are funding them. That's it. That is all that's happening here. All that's happening is that they want to reframe the Save America Act as something like, oh, the left won't vote for it because they're radical pro-trans extremists. Like, that's what they wanted the story now to become. And it's because they weren't getting enough steam to get this passed, as far as I can tell. Right?
Money. Head feel too dumb to make smart sentence. Other chatters send money, index pointing at the viewer emoji, gorilla emoji.
Brutus Magnuson, thank you for the $10 super chat, and also Rip Harambe. You know, that's where this timeline all went wrong. Now, of course, when I say this is all busy work for the GOP, what do I mean? It's all a distraction for them. What do I mean? Well, let's take a look at this CNN clip where Dana Bash is talking. All right, let's just jump into this real quick.
Jewish women on estrogen can shoot space lasers.
Man, I hope the original space laser bit it makes it through this entire thing so we can just keep adding to the
need
lore.
earlier streams. I am already half asleep.
I know, Paladin. I'm sorry. I've been really on edge trying to get all my life stuff done in the daytime. But thank you for subscribing. All right, here's Dana Bash.
Then he went into discussing the Save America Act, which he says is the Save America Act, not the Save Act, which he says we always call it. And he said that he called it the most important thing that he wants to do other than the war right now. And he said that there are now 5 things in this Save America Act that he wants the House and the Senate to pass. He said no mail-in ballots except military, illness, disability, and travel, no men in women's sports, and no transgender operations for youth. He added...
Yeah, and as we all know, these all go hand in hand, right? All of these, vote by mail, male, female... Oh, damn, it's all coming together. Look, his soup brain makes so much more sense when you just give up any kind of logic and just lean into the word association, the phonetic sounds of association that happen when you say things out loud. I genuinely believe that a large part of why he's reformatting this entire bill is because it's just word association to him. He's fully and utterly cooked in the head. Okay?
Those 2 social issues to the voting issues that were part of the Save America Act. And he says that is what he wants to have done.
Godzilla can shoot crotch lasers because she consumes often thought lethal amounts of estrogen.
What? Godzilla doesn't shoot crotch lasers. Godzilla shoots mouth lasers. As a kaiju enthusiast, I'm baffled. Now, one could argue that Mechagodzilla shoots crotch lasers, though it's more of like a chest beam. So as far as I know, there's no crotch laser unless you count Biollante, because Biollante is a flower, so maybe that would count.
Lol, I saw a meme once, guess it didn't get around.
Okay, yeah, I'm not up on my memes. I'm also old. Nathan, thank you for the $5 dono.
Chat, I'm new to the community. Just who is this pretty lady?
Squirter General, thank you for the $5 dono. What a username. What a username indeed.
Where do you think Godzilla got his atomic breath from? His treasure is your pleasure.
Oh, God. Godzilla would be a kind and considerate lover. I will not elaborate. Moving on. God. Fuck. We're so far afield. All right. So why is Donald Trump trying to, change the story of the Save America Act beyond just like word association soup brain? Is there any kind of like strategy here? And honestly, as far as I can tell, he's looking for an out, right? So here's a truth from earlier today. Great job by hardworking Scott Pressler on Fox and Friends talking about the using of the filibuster or talking filibuster in order to pass the Save America Act, an 88% issue with all voters. It must be done immediately. It supersedes everything else, must go to the front of the line. I, as president, will not sign other bills until this is passed. And not the watered-down version. Go for the gold. Must show voter ID and proof of citizenship. No mail-in ballots except for military, illness, disability, travel. No men and women's sports. No transgender mutilization. for children. Do not
This is
fail.
the Godzilla ***** laser meme.
I will look at that not on my active screen. That's fair. That is a good meme. I like it. I'm still not going to derail because I want to finish the segment so bad. It is a good meme though. But also, one, you know this is absolutely Trump tweeting this out because he misspells mutilation. Mutilization isn't a word. Like it like that sounds like a word that would have been invented for, like, I don't know, Borderlands 6. Just something to indicate over the topness. But also, you can kind of see why he's doing this, right? Like, this isn't gonna pass. But he wants to do the fear-mongering, and he wants to be hyperbolic, and he also wants to do one other thing, which is to give an excuse for why no legislation is passing. Okay? Full stop. Like, he's effectively ground Congress to a halt, and they aren't really going to be passing a whole lot more stuff other than the one big beautiful bill, which was the one thing that they could really muster enough legislative support for outside of releasing the Epstein files. And so he's looking for a reason to make himself look good in the eyes of his, voters, and also give an excuse for why nothing is really happening. Why are they just treading water? It's frankly because they have nothing else to agree on, to do. Like, they got everything they wanted. You think he's trying to find a way to shift his lame duck presidency to Congress? I mean, I think he's trying desperately to pass this one last piece of legislation to try and, like, lock Republicans into power, but I don't think it's gonna work, They want us to pass legislation, but that sounds a little gay, a little like those transgenders we're not interested in passing. We're men, we're masculine. It's true. It's true. We're all men in Trump's America. Every single one of us. And when we're all men, no one will be men. Just like The Incredibles. All right. Let's just talk about the fact that, again, our entire society has really become just like a microcosm of a Joe Rogan episode, and it sucks. It really sucks to be here.
But in this situation, talk to this transgender person, like, hey, can I run something by you? And I spoke with them. They described to me a level of oppression that genuinely fucking broke my heart. They said, hey, let me tell you, like, I am not allowed to use the bathroom at my own place of work. We've got, like,
That's not true. They're just not allowed to use the bathroom. It doesn't align with their biological sex.
Okay.
But you...
Like, do you know how insane it is that, like, we have... This is Steve O, right? Like, am I wrong about this? Yeah, like, Steve O out here is, like, straight up being like, yeah, no, trans people deserve liberation. They deserve to be able to use the bathroom, without being, like, assaulted. And I learned this from my experience on doing the Jackass movies, because I was going to get breast implants, and I talked to a trans person.
How do people still think Joe is a left-leaning centrist? Genuine question.
Because they think he's too stupid to have a solid political stance. That is genuinely it. It is genuinely that, like, people think Joe Rogan is too stupid to have, like, actual coherent politics. And so everyone who goes on his show thinks that they can use him for their own political ends. And in some cases they may be right, but not in all cases. And, like, Steve O, again, he did the Jackass movies, guys, like... But, like, he's just like, yeah, wow, I couldn't even comprehend the level of oppression trans people exist under. And Joe Rogan's like, no, they get to use the right bathroom. But that's a fucking lie.
This is my headcanon, and always had been.
What is this? Okay, we'll look at the Godzilla memes after the segment is done. All right. But thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. I do look, you guys have my number down, okay? You guys know that dangling Godzilla related content in front of me while I'm in the middle of talking about something else is gonna very much derail me, but I will not give in. I will ascend beyond my primal urges to talk about large reptilian monsters, and we'll continue to talk about the topic, okay? We just have this situation where, like, Joe Rogan, he understands the problem, right? Like, Joe Rogan wants to come across as, like, a common sense kind of guy, right? But, like, if you actually have common sense, you immediately see the problem of trying to, like, pigeonhole trans people into, like, one bathroom or the other, which is that there are some people who don't neatly fit into either bathroom. And really, the solution here is we should just degender bathrooms, build better stalls, like, get rid of urinals. I know that might be like a shock. Oh no, they're coming for our precious urinal troughs. But, like, just build better stalls. You could have every bathroom not gendered and it would solve all the problems. Like, there's no magic force field right now that keeps, women safe and separate in their like special room, or any kind of special thing that keeps men safe and separate in their men's rooms. Like, just have bathrooms. Like, what kills me about this entire discussion is ultimately it comes down to the fact that, like, it's entirely a moot point of conversation, except that people who, like architects and people who want to lay out their stores, don't want to front the cash to have better bathrooms. That's it. Full stop. Like, we don't want to have stalls that go all the way to the ground. Oh no. Oh, we don't want like heaven forbid another human being be in that bathroom. Oh no. Like, it just seems to me that this is entirely a handout to Capital, so Capital doesn't have to change
Put
a
up a
goddamn
high
thing.
scoreboard for consecutive not hitting the seat in the restrooms, and men will never miss the bowl again.
No, what I'm interested in is putting up a high scoreboard for washing your hands. All right, that's what I'm interested in. All right, we need an actual system that works to mandate hand washing. All right. We could be living in a glorious, infection-free future if we just had men wash their hands slightly more often. You're telling me that Big Bathroom is the villain behind the mask? It's not even Big Bathroom. It's just, honestly, every store, most stores have to have a bathroom. And they don't want to spend a whole lot of money on that bathroom, and so they cheap out, and like they have like shitty building material, the locks don't work properly, etc. Like, this is a known problem, and they just don't want to shell out a little bit more money to make sure that their bathrooms are just available to everybody. And like, if you go into like the history of, like, I know we're getting really far afield here, but if you go into the history of like the public restroom, it's actually fascinating, right? Like, part of the reason public restrooms emerged as like a women's space is because it was one of the few places where women could go and be away from like a man who was escorting her someplace, And so this tradition of like the girls going to the bathroom is actually like rooted in the fact that in the past there was far more patriarchal suppression, and also this kind of went hand in hand with the commodification of bathrooms, because originally they weren't open for free public use. You had to pay to use the bathroom. It's just like a whole very interesting part of our history, and I think once people understand it better, they realize everything we're doing with bathrooms is purely arbitrary, and there's absolutely no arguable point to try and say that like trans people need to use different restrooms.
Urinals won't be missed when the government equivalent washlet lid is in every stall.
Oh God, you want to see America hit revolution in record time? All you have to do is mandate a squatty potty, all
Can
right?
confirm public bathrooms in America feel cheap, and if they feel cheap, you know they're extra cheap on the build quality and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Every bathroom needs to use a bidet now. America would rise up. It's true. It's true. Nathan, thank you for the $5 donut. Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. Appreciate you so much. Are businesses required by state law to build gendered bathrooms? I don't know every state law, but in Minnesota, they certainly aren't. You can have like a family restroom or like a unisex bathroom in a business. It like the only reason we gender our bathrooms anymore is purely due to social expectation. That's it. We have nothing to lose but our toilet paper.
D-Day? How about B-Day?
In about a minute, we'll be hit by unrelenting spray. It will clean between our cheeks. It will clean up our hole, and we must remain vigilant and fight for every square inch to eradicate the menace to our health and well-being. You must be brave. All right, I'm done. I'm done with this bit. It's gone on too long. Too long. We haven't even finished this clip.
You got to realize they're not all. Listen, I genuinely think there's people that feel like they are in the wrong biological sex.
Sure.
Right? But there's also
guys like me, Joe Rogan, someone who has hundreds of millions of dollars and spends a countless amount of it on affirming my own gender, whether it's on my expensive ice bath treatments or my expensive exotic meat-only diet, or all of my fancy weight machines that get implanted into my blood. That's right, I use nano weight machines. It's crazy. Like, this dude lives a life that is so fucking divorced from yours or mine, and he's like, look, I bet some of these trans people are oppressed, but you know what? Some of them, I'm sure, are bad if I really went out there and looked. Fucking transvestigator-in-chief Joe Rogan over here.
People that are fucking perverts, and they have a thing called autogynephilia, and what that is they get a turn on by pretending to be a woman. They get excited by it. And
autogynephilia is, like, as far as I know, not a thing. Like, it's basically like fear mongering about trans people. That's it. It's like, the only reason you're trans is because you want to have your erection. How dare you?
They want to be around women, and they're creeps. And so you give them a fucking Willy Wonka golden ticket to go into the women's locker room and the women's bathroom and stare at women and pretend you're a woman when you're just a crazy man.
Okay, counterpoint though. You can, in fact, also be a fucking creep as like a cis woman in a changing room, or a cis man in a changing room. There are absolutely older guys who hang out in changing rooms just to like leer at younger men who come in. Okay? That is absolutely a thing that happens. And like, Joe Rogan doesn't seem to have a problem with that because he hasn't built an entire political personality around going after those guys or going after those women who do that. But, like, I don't think he actually cares about this problem.
I just joined a few minutes ago and was mortified by the chants of Chud Stevo. I am so goddamn proud he is being the normalest person in the building.
It's pretty crazy, right?
And you're actually into women.
Okay.
That's real too, man.
I don't...
Yeah, so gay people also exist. What are you talking about?
If pretending to be a woman turned you on, wouldn't it be called autogalnophilia? Checkmate, liberals.
God, Sake Tanuki, your jokes are so good, but also conservatives are genuinely operating on the level of joking that you, but like that's their top level of cognition, you know? Like, they're like, huh, have you heard about semantics? I'm about to be really fucking irritating with them. For no reason other than I don't understand what's happening and I need to make loud noises. But like, did you know that there could be people in the locker room who are attracted to other people in the locker room? It's like, bro, your entire personality has been molded around creating something that other men want to like be and like latch onto. Joe Rogan's entire existence has been trying to cultivate this masculinity that can be the envy of other men. And like, dude's out here being like, what if there were people in the locker room checking each other out? It's like, oh God. Oh God. Didn't Joe fall off? He's still one of the largest podcasters on the planet.
Now that that's real, and I know that it's a super complex, nuanced thing, and
but here's what's not complex.
You know what though? I would appreciate it if allies stopped saying like, no, it's not complicated. It's not fucking complicated. Trans people are fine. You're just a fucking weirdo.
What is your chromosomes?
Right.
Okay.
Oh fuck. Do you think? Okay, genuine question. Do you think that Joe Rogan has actually tested his own chromosomes? Do you think that Joe Rogan has done like a DNA test to verify his own chromosomes? I'm always fascinated by that question. Because again, guys like Joe Rogan will be like, it all comes down to the chromosomes, but then they've never fucking checked their own chromosomes. God. Every single guy who says it comes down to the chromosomes has never actually bothered to check out their own chromosomes.
Okay, this is the same thing for competing. Right. All these fucking mental gymnastics that seemingly intelligent people do to justify
all of these really smart people are doing these mental gymnastics, and I'm incapable of doing any of them. But all the smart people seem to agree on this topic, but I think they're stupid. I don't know, maybe all the smart people disagreeing with you should indicate that you're wrong.
Biological males competing with females.
Oh, I'm with the, I don't think anybody's
It's the same
that.
thing.
Right.
It's the same thing.
Right.
And especially as speaking as a man who has daughters, like there are creeps. And if you give a creep, and I'm not saying all trans people are creeps.
Right.
But a lot of these fucking people that are in trouble for going into women's bathrooms dressed as a woman with a fucking beard and a heart on.
Okay. Again, there is nothing that prevents men from going into bathrooms to be creeps. Signed, I know so many women who've been creeped on in bathrooms by cis men. This is not... Like, putting on a dress doesn't give you, like, this weird pass to go in and creep on women in bathrooms. That's not how this works. The fact that this is, like, Joe Rogan's been talking about this for, like, a decade, and the fact that he thinks that this is how this works indicates that, like, he just hasn't been listening. He hasn't been paying any attention. And he thinks these things because this is what kind of 1980s fucking comedy-ass, rapey-ass bullshit that he thinks he would do if he could get away with it. Right? Like, ultimately, it just comes down to this. It just comes down to the fact that, like, he'd do, like, the rapey shit in, like, every 1980s comedy. And, like, he's just projecting onto trans people his own fucking disgusting bullshit. I'm so sick of it. I'm so sick of it. And I'm sick of it especially because, like, Joe Rogan, unfortunately, wields a lot of influence. And this is what I mean by this is all just fucking busy work for conservatives. You know?
Dressing like a bathroom employee or getting employed as one is way easier and cheaper if you want to do that.
It's true. Are you saying he's a creep and he's a weirdo? I am. I am indeed saying that. Why were the comedies of the 80s so rapey in particular? Because what was socially acceptable in the 80s was rapey. Like, I don't really have any other way that's not blunt to put that. But a lot of rapey shit and a lot of rape specifically was excused all the time in the 80s. Like, there were tons of people participating in rape culture in the 80s. The reason we talk about rape culture at all right now is because of how prevalent it is. It's still prevalent. Like, dudes will go to join a fraternity in college and get sexually assaulted by their frat mates and never tell anyone about it because, it wasn't actually rape. They don't think of it like that. They categorize it differently because that's what rape culture does. It recategorizes sexual assault and rape into something that is more acceptable that you still shouldn't talk about. And, Me Too had its day and unfortunately has kind of died down. And now we elected a guy who's found liable for sexual assault and rape and put him in the White House, where a bunch of other people are going to take note of that and act accordingly. Well, yeah, I mean, depraved ambiance, genuinely in the 1980s, rape was only considered actually a rape if it was, a stranger jumping out of the bush to do it right then and there, It's why, again, people aren't necessarily wow, Back to the Future is really fucked up because Marty fakes an attempted rape on his mom. No one talked about that in the 80s because it was just seen as a normal thing. Oh yeah, sure, of course Marty McFly's dad would be down with a plan to fake the rape of the girl that he is interested in. That's a main plot point of the movie. But it was just so normalized, people didn't really talk about it as much. Sorry, I know we're talking about the Save America Act, but understand that the bedrock of the Save America Act is this shit on the ground level.
I do wonder if someone with the cadence of Jon Stewart said the whole bathroom attendant thing and corrected Rogan, if Rogan wouldn't pull what he did for Dibble.
Oh god, Sake Tanuki, I finally buckled down and watched that, and genuinely that was nothing has made me so angry at Joe Rogan quite like watching him attempt to moderate an intellectual debate between Graham Hancock and Flint Dibble. That was an infuriating 4 hours of my life I will never get back. But that's, again, it's intellectual sludge. It's not good for you to watch this shit. Every time you watch an episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, you get a little bit more divorced.
Are just that. They're creeps.
Right, okay.
They're crazy men. And these crazy men, their entire life, they would get beaten up for that. And now all of a sudden, they have to be accepted.
Yeah. So Joe Rogan is now just, okay, trans women are crazy men who should be beaten up instead of accepted. That's where we're at, right? One of the biggest podcasters in the entire world getting on his platform advocating for violence towards trans people.
So you've got two things going on at the same time.
For sure.
You've got people with gender dysphoria that genuinely wish they were a woman or genuinely wish they were a man. And by the way...
And we should discriminate against all of them because of a hypothetical imagined person in my mind who used a bathroom one time in the last 10 years. And
it's men that are the problem.
Yeah.
No one gives a fuck about trans men going into the men's bathroom. Come on in.
That's not true. Multiple trans men have been assaulted trying to use the men's room. And then in states where it's illegal for them to do that, have been assaulted trying to use the women's restroom. It's a no-win situation for trans people. Anyone who's disingenuously putting forward what Joe Rogan is putting out here is just saying trans people shouldn't be able to exist in public.
And who cares?
Right.
Who cares? Oh, a girl's going to shit next to you? Or what is she going to do? She's going to pee out of a funnel?
Right,
what is she?
Also, noteworthy that Joe Rogan started this by saying, yeah, there are some trans people who genuinely experience gender dysphoria and they're valid, but then is just misgendering trans men and bitch, there are trans men who could beat the fuck out of you. Like, are you kidding me? Like, again, and this is the stupid part about Joe Rogan, because if you actually went up to Joe Rogan and were like, you're gonna call this man a woman, like for real, like you're gonna walk up to this guy and say you're a lady, the fuck you are. That's fucking insane, bro. Like, that's fucking crazy. But again, all of it is reliant on bigotry. It's just naked bigotry. And like, I don't really know how else to like describe it anymore. I think we need to just straight up be like, nah, these people are flaming bigots. It's fucking obvious. I'm tired of playing nice with it, you know? God, like I saw a post the other day about, you know, people who are saying that, oh, seeing two men kiss in like a kid's movie, you know, it's too controversial because, you know, parents will have to have a conversation with their kids. It's like, no, that's a fucking homophobic thing to say. It's homophobic to say that like two men can't kiss because you have to have a conversation with your kid. And guess what? That conversation's just like, yeah, sometimes two guys like each other. Boom. And end of conversation. Kids are not confused by that at all. God, it's so fucking frustrating.
What are you going to do? Like,
Hey,
no
I'm
one's
not-
going to
I'm
get
not- I'm
hurt.
not arguing
No
with
one's
you
going to
on
get
this.
hurt. This is the problem. When
Right.
you allow perverts to have...
Yeah, okay. But it's already illegal to be a pervert in the bathroom, regardless of whether you're trans or cis. Like, the laws against trans people being in the bathroom don't prevent perverts from going in the bathroom because the perverts are already breaking the law.
have this hall pass to go into women's locker rooms and bathrooms.
Yeah.
So you can't say you're not allowed to use...
It's not a fucking hall pass. Trans adults are not children in a fucking school. When you use the fucking like restroom at Goodwill or like at McDonald's or some shit, you're not like timidly walking up to the teacher and being like, I need to use the bathroom. Can I have a pass? You don't have to ask anybody shit. You just go use the bathroom. God. Again, all of this is just fucking bigotry. That's it. And that is all that the Save America Act is designed to like put forward, really, at this point. Like, it is all just bigotry from top to bottom. And again, when you know it, someone else has weighed in on the bigotry here. Oh, look, it's Elon Musk's account on Twitter.com retweeting Alex. Trump says he will not sign another bill until the Save America Act is passed and is not going to stop talking about it. This should be the Senate's sole focus. Get this done or you will be betraying your voters. And again, pass the Save America Act now. It's all people care about. Yeah, I'm sure everyone everywhere is really caring about the Save America Act and not, you know, the war in Iran that you started. But like, Elon Musk is over here mixing Nazi propaganda and talking points with boosting the Save America Act. It's insane. It's just insane. And I do want to say, shout out to at least one politician who is out there fighting for like our rights and like our ability to exist in public. Shout out to Zoran Mamdani. I know there's been like some kerfuffles in, you know, the state of New York related to trans care and like NYU cutting off like trans care for like minors, but then the state ordering it to be, reintroduced. Like it's a whole back and forth going on here right now. But also, Mamdani sent out a spokesperson to talk to the media a couple days ago. We'll take a look at that real quick. And also said spokesperson further clarified after this interview. But let's take a look at the interview first.
Attorney General Letitia James ordered NYU Langone to reinstate its trans youth gender-affirming care program or face legal action. NYU Langone, one of the city's largest hospitals, abruptly ended the program last month after the Trump administration threatened to cut off Medicare and Medicaid funding to hospital systems that provide gender-affirming care to trans youth. Mayor Mamdani condemned the move in a post on social media, but he has not yet taken further action. Here to break down what all of this means is the only transgender member of Mayor Mamdani's Health Committee. Abby Stein is here. She is the author of Becoming Eve, My Journey from Ultra-Orthodox Rabbi to Transgender Woman. Welcome to the program. Good to see you.
Thank you. I do want to do a quick correction. I don't think I was the only one. I think I was the one specifically working on gender-affirming care. That was my role on the transition committee.
Okay.
But I'm not sure I was the only. I'm fairly certain there were a few more.
Okay, fair enough.
Just to be clear.
Well, let's start by making clear what we mean by gender-affirming care. What specific kinds of medical support do transgender patients need?
So I think what's most important here for this conversation is they need what their doctors and therapists say they need. And I think that's what we need to center in this conversation. No one comes into this, wakes up one day and the next day goes to the pharmacy and gets pills or hormones or procedures. Mm-hmm. This is a process that is done by consulting doctors, by consulting therapists, by making sure that both the mental health and the physical health is covered. So that is what needs to be covered, and what they need access to is whatever their doctors say they need access to. Most of the time, the most common one are puberty blockers, which very importantly, what it does is reversible. And more importantly, the difference first in health, and specifically the difference in the rates of suicide, which is unfortunately something we need to talk about when we have these conversations, is really, really big. And not having access to those, which are sometimes as little as simply blocking puberty, not doing anything else, is literally a matter of life and death. And I'm not saying this to be intense. It is a reality.
Okay, so would you have one?
You know, that was a really nicely stated summary of, why these types of medical interventions are necessary.
To use those services?
I wish I knew about it. It would have been, my life would have been infinitely easier. I mean, I think by now probably would have been the same, but to be able to do that at age 12, 13, 14, I had, and I describe it more in my book, we said we're gonna keep profanities to a minimum on the show, but I described it in my book. When I was 4 years old already, I tried to take matters into my own hands in ways of, I didn't even know what trans means, but I knew what I was feeling. So kids really sometimes know at a young age. And again, by consulting with their doctors, consulting with their therapists, consulting with the people around them. And when those people say that this is what needs to happen, whether it's a puberty blocker or even further care, we need to listen to them, and we need to make sure that they have access to that.
About how many kids would this affect in New York? Is there an estimate?
I think there are some numbers. I don't have the numbers offhand, so I don't want to say something, but I would say it's a few thousand. I personally have met dozens of kids. I was on the board last year of something called Transformative Schools, which is a school specifically for trans youth, just as a social program. And that school alone had dozens of kids. I have met so many. We have done for the past 2 years. The mayor actually came to one last year. We did a rally for trans youth, and we hear from those kids directly.
So now, when the federal government, the Trump administration, has threatened to cut Medicare funding, Medicaid funding, other federal support to hospital systems, and NYU does what? Because they still have a transgender practice. They're just saying, young people below a certain age can't
Everyone under 19. So for some reason they decided not even 18, so not even just people who are legally underage, but even 19 for some reason. And what they really do, what is so threatening, is that they threaten Medicaid for everyone.
Sure.
So it's not just, let's say if NYU continues providing care, the federal government is saying, I'm going to take away Medicaid from trans youth or even from trans adults. I'm going to not allow you to process Medicaid whatsoever, which is really dangerous for so many people and impacts the most vulnerable, as we all know. And what's so important also for us, and I think this comes...
It's also important to know that, Medicare and Medicaid were also the mechanisms used to essentially desegregate hospital systems, because prior to the civil rights era, you'd have whites only hospitals and blacks only hospitals. It would be it was that stark, and there were some places that held out for a very long time against expanding treatments to everyone regardless of skin color, notably the whites only hospitals. And that funding, Medicaid and Medicare, that was used as the cudgel to get them to open their doors to everybody. And so there is a perversity to the Trump administration using that same mechanism to try and stamp out trans people, to try and like effectively segregate care out of, you know, hospitals that receive government funding, and push trans people into only for-profit or, you know, outside of government funded hospital systems. It's it's pretty gross.
Conversation that we've been having and since the beginning of the transition when I was on this committee and until now, specifically with the Deputy Mayor on Health, these conversations that we're having a lot is we want to make sure that we protect the access that we have for trans adults, which NYU and Mount Sinai and all those hospitals are still doing. I mean, I can say it openly, I'm a patient at Mount Sinai, for example, and I've had a really good relationship with the doctors there and with the providers. And we need to find...
I don't understand why it's 19. It's probably 19 to avoid any headlines of like, 18-year-old got like gender affirming surgery or something like that. They want to avoid even the appearance of violating whatever, you know, terms the federal government is trying to impose.
How do we make sure that that access keeps going? Like Medicaid at the moment does cover for adults, which is the law in New York State. But by New York State law, they also need to cover for trans youth. And how do we make sure that that continues to happen?
Oh, okay. I sense even just from talking with you what the outlines of a case by Letitia James might look like, because threatening a program over here in order to get a name over there doesn't always really work out legally. But what should City Hall be doing? I mean, we have 11 public hospitals, and I think Mayor Mamdani has suggested that they might be a place where some of the medical gap could be filled, right?
So at the moment, and I think this has really been the struggle, and I think a lot of people in our community, myself included, have been very frustrated. We want to see more happening, but I'm also inside City Hall to say that I know the struggle that we're having of trying to balance those, because in some ways we could come down. We can say by New York City, by New York State law, these hospitals, at least the public hospitals, but also NYU, they, like the letter of the Attorney General said, you have to cover it. But at the same time, we need to make sure still that we can do both. Like, yes, there's the New York Health and Hospitals is definitely a path. It's something, that conversation that we keep having on how do we make sure and how do we perhaps fill that gap. At the same time, there's several other plans, some of which I don't think are ready necessarily to be shared yet, but something that that the city administration is working really intensely on to be able to fill that gap. And I will say I've heard that from the mayor directly on one-on-one conversations and in the statements that he has made publicly, that this is a priority to make sure that we fill in the gap. Exactly how it looks depends on this game that we have to unfortunately play with the federal government to make sure that we both protect trans adults, we protect trans youth, and that we protect all the other programs for elderly New Yorkers, and we all know, like, as soon as they can, they will try to target HIV and PrEP. They're going to try to target everything they can until they get what they want. So we need to be smarter than that. And we need to make sure that we fill in that gap, which is a strong priority. We don't throw anyone under the bus, and that we keep what we already have.
Yeah, and I mean, and just to be clear, before we say goodnight, the reality is any medical treatment that young people want, their parents have to give consent, right? You can't just walk into a clinic and even get a flu shot if you're 13 years old. So
I do want to say here, part of the panic that has been going around specifically about like Zoran Mamdani as it relates to like trans kids and trans youth, has been effectively one created by a lack of communication or clear communication. And I think sending more people out there just to reassure the trans people, both in New York City itself and New York State, and also the entirety of the country, that there are people out there fighting for us and fighting for you. That's what people are really looking for right now. And so there needs to be more communication about, like, what are these plans that you're working on? Like, what do they look like? And if they need to be, less visible, why is that? The communication needs to be clear, because folks are getting really scared. And especially when people are scared and angry, as many trans people are, I think it becomes a lot easier to lash out at folks who are on your side, but who are communicating poorly. And I think that that's kind of what's happening here. I do not think that like Zoran Mamdani has abandoned trans people. And I think they're just working on how to respond to a very powerful federal government coming to their doorstep and trying to threaten hospitals into ceasing, gender-related care. And I think that there are obviously several different ways one could get around this, but I imagine part of what they are trying to do is come up with a solution that is going to survive any kind of legal onslaught that the Trump administration tries to mount. That's where this is, I've lost trust. I'm sick of cis allies throwing us under the bus. I guess all I'm saying is don't invent people throwing you under the bus when they haven't thrown you under the bus yet. There are enough people throwing trans people under the bus every fucking day that we don't need to invent new ones. And, if Zoran does throw trans people under the bus, then absolutely we should criticize. But right now, that hasn't happened. There is an assumption that it has happened based on poor communication. And I do not think we should simply assume new adversaries instead of, recognizing communication constraints under these circumstances would be pretty reasonable and understandable. So, all that being said, the woman in the interview here put together a thread here and talked more about it. I reconfirmed with Zoran Mamdani, clear commitment, this administration will not throw trans New Yorkers, adults, and youth alike under the bus, and recognizes that private institutions' capitulation harms vulnerable New Yorkers the most. The mayor and the administration continue working behind the scenes to ensure New Yorkers can access gender-affirming care. I got to contribute to this work during the transition and continue to in partnership with Deputy Mayor Helen Arteaga and the Mayor's Office of Mass Engagement. So again, I'm just encouraging folks, don't assume everyone is going to knife you in the back, because we need all the allies we can get. I work with some trans teens, and man, they ain't having a fun time. I bet they aren't. It fucking sucks out there. So, all that being said, the Save America Act is a piece of legislation predicated on fear, predicated on anger, predicated on a lack of understanding the unknowns that trans people represent to folks like Joe Rogan. We're new to Joe Rogan. We're scary to Joe Rogan. Because Joe Rogan is a dumb and incurious man, he assumes that we are a threat to him, to his children, etc., etc., etc. And that's not at all the case. But those assumptions create the bedrock for why Donald Trump is putting anti-trans provisions into the Save America Act. They're doing it because they want to look busy. Well, everything else, the jobs report was terrible. All of the news from Iran is terrible for them. Like, nothing is going well for Donald Trump right now. It's why he's retreating into thinking about his ballroom again. It's why he's trying to, virtue signal about this, or at least vice signal, to those of us on the left, and to his base. Vice signal about hating trans people. That's what is happening here. And it is deeply enraging, but I think we also need to recognize the fact that this is all coming from a place of failure, a place of profound misjudgment of the American public. It is not popular. And it is why this piece of legislation is going to just languish and die on the floor. They cannot actually get enough folks to pass it, and it's just going to rot. It has become an excuse, a monument to Donald Trump's incompetence and ignorance, and to the incompetence and ignorance of every single Republican lawmaker. And I think in that, despite the ongoing assault on trans rights and trans people in this country, we should take some hope in the fact that this is deeply unpopular and they are only resorting to this because they have genuinely nothing else to offer their constituents other than fear and misery. We will outlast that. So all that being said, folks, hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button. Let me know what you thought down in the comments. What's the probability of the Senate Republicans suspending the filibuster? 0. Senate Republicans are not going to give up the filibuster, which has been predominantly used by Republicans in the past, in order to like push this forward. It's not, they're not going to do that. And also, folks, get organized. Join your local Dems, join your local DSA. We need folks to show up to those meetings and get organized. Get to know the other folks who are like-minded. Make your Democrats more progressive. Make your DSA more effective. Partner with labor in your community. Work in tandem with other groups and spur change on the local level and the state level and the national level. We got to do that. All right. And we cannot be operating from a place where we've already given up and thrown up our hands and said, well, I guess we'll die, because we're not going to do that. We're going to keep going and we're going to live and thrive. And last but not least here, folks, check out ImogeneOlivia.com. Gender euphoric lingerie designed from the ground up for trans femmes, tested with cis men, cis women, non-binary folks. People love it. It's very comfortable, very classy, very sexy. And it is non-tucking lingerie. New colors and styles are coming in the near future, as well as new sizes. And I encourage you all to check it out. ImogeneOlivia.com. Link down in the doobly-doo. Let's keep on going.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather around. Twitch and YouTube and swishy streams. All that content is bursting the scenes. Politics, dating, plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord.